we're going to look at getting you started with playing the 5-string banjo. We'll look at buying a banjo, what extra bits of kit you need in order to be able to play, how to hold the banjo, how to wear these finger pick things, how to tune the banjo. So the 5-string banjo, first off, when you are embarking on the journey of learning to play a 5-string banjo, you should be aware that there are two main styles of 5-string banjo playing. There's the style that I was playing just now, the style that I teach, which is known as Scruggs style, or the Bluegrass 3-finger style, where you wear these finger picks and you pick out roll patterns on the banjo. If you want to play dueling banjo, for example, then that is Scruggs style, 3-finger style, Bluegrass style banjo, wearing these finger picks. There's another very popular sort of banjo playing that predates Scruggs style. It's called claw hammer. And claw hammer, you don't wear finger picks, and you play it with a sort of strumming motion with your middle or your index finger brushing the strings and your thumb playing the drone. The claw hammer is an old-time banjo technique. It came before Scruggs style. It's not a style I teach, so if that's the sort of sound you wanted to make, recommend looking elsewhere on YouTube or looking for another teacher. So as I said, we're going to concentrate on Scruggs style, 3-finger picking style banjo. It's called Scruggs style because the person that really brought it to prominence and invented a lot of the licks and moves that we play was a guy, Earl Scruggs. Perhaps the most famous 5-string banjo player ever. He came to prominence when he was playing with Bill Monroe in the Bluegrass Boys. Back in the, I think it's the 40s and the 50s. And he pretty much came up with a lot of the manoeuvres, the licks, the techniques that we still use to this day when playing bluegrass banjo. So, first off, you're going to need to buy a banjo, and there are a couple of different sorts of 5-string banjo on the market. I mean, there are many different makes, obviously, but this one that I'm playing, this is called a resonator banjo. It's the type most commonly used to play bluegrass. They're very heavy. Inside them they have a solid cast tone ring and a big thick wooden rim, and on the back they have this thing called a resonator, this wooden dish. It's a metal plate or a flange around the outside here. You can see these holes, and the resonator and the tone ring combine to give the banjo a really loud, cutting, clear sound. Very popular with the bluegrass musicians because if you think about how bluegrass bands work or traditionally work, they'd often have one microphone in the middle, and each instrument would take it in turns to step up to the microphone to play it solo while the others backed off, and so you need a lot of volume in order to be heard. Also, if you're jamming in a session, then a banjo needs to be loud to be heard above the fiddles and other instruments, and these bluegrass banjos are built for volume and cut. The disadvantage of this type of banjo is that they're very heavy. This one weighs about 5 kilos and it doesn't sound like much, but when you're picking it up and down, you can really start to feel the weight. And so the alternative for buying a banjo, and this is if you're not going to be playing in big sessions, you're planning to play mainly at home or just with one or two other people, then you can buy open back banjos like these. Now, open back banjos are more often used for claw hammer, the old time style, but they work perfectly well for bluegrass style as well. This one is an American made, it's a Deering, like my other banjo, but they cost considerably less, and this one only weighs maybe 1.5 kilos, whereas the other one weighs about 5 kilos. This one probably weighs about 2 kilos actually. This has just got a plain wooden rim, and this one's got no tone ring, so the head of the banjo here sits on the wood of the rim without the big heavy metal tone ring in there. Now that means it has a mellower sound than the resonator banjo, which can be popular with people. A lot of people prefer the sound of the mellower sound of the open back banjo. It doesn't cut so much, it's not as loud. So if you're going to play big groups of people, you may want to think about a resonator banjo. If you're just going to play on your own, then if weight's an issue, if you have a bad back, for example, you don't want to be hanging a big weight around your shoulder, then open back banjos can work better. This one. has a mellower, warmer, more woody sound because it doesn't have the metal tone ring in there. Now you can also get open back banjos that have a tone ring built into them, so although they don't have the resonator, they do have a metal tone ring there. That's a sort of compromise between the resonator model I showed you first and this pure open back. Obviously it gives it a bit more cut than the plain open back woody banjo. So that's a decision to make when you start out. There's no reason why you can't play bluegrass on an open back banjo. They have a nice mellow sound, but they don't have the same cut and volume. Now, when you buy a banjo, you can look at eBay. There's hundreds of different banjos for sale, new ones, second-hand ones. You can pick up some real bargains buying second-hand, but what I would recommend not doing is buying one of the sort of super cheap £150, £120 ones with the aluminium rims. You see them and they look like a bottle top, the rims on them. Probably buying one of those from a bulk supplier is they can arrive very badly set up and difficult to play. A second-hand banjo of a better make would probably be a better bet if you're going to buy off eBay. Or I would suggest buying your first banjo from one of the well-known banjo dealers. If you're in the UK, there's a couple of shops that I've used where the banjos have always arrived really well set up, really easy to play. One is called Eagle Music. It's based in Huddersfield. You'll find their website if you Google Eagle Music. And the other is a guy called Andy Perkins, or Andy Banjo, who's based down in Faversham in Kent. They both supply banjos of all different price points. They'll be a bit more expensive than just buying a cheapo off eBay, but like I said, you probably don't want to do that. And if you buy a banjo from one of these people, you know you're going to get an instrument that's well set up, that it's going to be the bridge is going to be in the right place, that the strings are the right height off the neck, the action on it's right, that it's going to be in tune and set up ready to play, which is helpful when you're starting off. Now, if you do buy a banjo from Eagle Music or from Andy Banjo down in Kent, then you'll probably end up having a discussion with them about whether or not you want something called spikes fit into the banjo. Now, spikes are used when you want to play the banjo in different keys. A banjo, it tunes to an open G chord. And so it loves to play things in the key of G. Now, if you want to play with a fiddle player, fiddle players, for example, will often want to play in the key of A or B flat or C or something like that. And the easiest way to change the key of the banjo is to use something called a capo and to spike the fifth string. So when you're buying your banjo, if your dealer offers you the opportunity of having spikes fitted, then you should say yes, even if it costs you a little bit more. What a spike does, it enables you to take this drone string, this shorter string on the top of the neck, and hook it up so that it rises in pitch. So I've hooked that from G up to A. And I've got two more fitted, one here and one here, which enable me to play the banjo easily in different keys. So although we're not going to worry about that in the early days of the lessons, in due course you will need to be able to change the pitch of your banjo. And so if you get the option to have spikes fitted, I would recommend getting them fitted, and the usual place is to have them fitted on frets 7, 9 and 10. That's fret 7, so you can play the key of A, 9 for B and 10 for C. Now what else do you need to get? Well, the first thing is you'll probably notice that I'm wearing a strap with my banjo. I would recommend getting a strap because it helps you to hold, if you're standing up, obviously it's necessary, otherwise your banjo is going to hit the floor, but if you're playing sitting down, then you want to be able to support some of the weight of the banjo on your legs or lap, and the banjo sits in your lap between your knees, and some of the weight on a strap to stop the banjo spinning round when you hold it. So get yourself a strap, get it fitted early on, it's going to help the banjo to be easier to hold. Most banjos either have little hooks ready made for the strap, or you can hook the strap round the brackets that are on the banjo around here, one at the front above the neck and one at the back there. And you want the banjo just short enough so that some of the weight's on the strap, some of the weight is on your lap. As you can see, the strap goes over this shoulder behind the other shoulder here. Yep. So while we're also looking at things to get, we talked about having spikes fitted if you can. And going along with spikes is having this thing called a capo. The capo enables you, so the spike enables you to shorten or raise the pitch of the drone string, and the capo enables you to raise the pitch of the other strings. If I capo here, so now the banjo sounds like this. And then if I put the capo on fret 2, and we'll talk more about this when we need to, but it's good to get one now, and I spike my string, my A string up to fret 2, out to fret 7 there. Now my banjo's in A instead of in G. So that tune I played at the start, Cripple Creek, is usually played in A actually, not in G. So if you meet a fiddle player or a guitarist or whoever, a mandolin player, they're probably going to play it in A. And so for you to play along with them, the easiest way is to have a capo and the spikes and capo up to A. If you're buying a banjo capo, I would recommend getting something like one of these. This is a Page banjo capo. They're only about £10, I think. The cool thing about them is that you can leave them on the banjo all the time. So when you're not using it, you just unscrew it and slide it back, and it'll sit just behind the nut, the top of the banjo up here. So you don't lose it, and it's always there when you need it. And when it comes to tuning the banjo, you're going to need something to know whether your banjo's in tune or not. Now you can get tuning apps on your smartphones these days that will show you the pitch that each string is tuned to and whether it's in tune or not. But I would also recommend getting something like this. This is an electric clip-on tuner. These ones are made by a company called Snark. They seem to work particularly well. You clip them to somewhere like the headstock of your banjo up here, and then when you play the strings, they tell you whether or not you're in tune. So this would be a good time to have let me just move over a bit so you can see that on my headstock there. Yeah, this would be a good time to have a look at tuning the banjo. And what they do is they give you a signal when the banjo is sharp or flat, and they give you a green light when the banjo is bang on the note it needs to be. As I said, the banjo tunes to an open G chord, and so the notes on the strings, yeah, and I would recommend listening to something like this when you're trying to tune your banjo to start with, to make sure you don't tune way too sharp and break a string or something. If we go down across the strings, your drone string needs to be tuned to a G note like this. A little bit flat there on my tuner, so I'm going to bring it up. When you're tuning, start flat, play the string all the time, and turn it, and if you watch your tuner, you'll see it come into tune with a green light on the tuner. There we are. So the first drone string is a high G. The next string down is going to be a D. The next string down is going to be another G, an octave lower. The next string down is going to be a B. And then bottom string is going to be another D. Let's bring it up a little bit. It's a bit flat. If it's below where it should be, it's flat. If it's above where it should be, we say it's sharp. Going through those strings again, your drone's at G. A bit sharp. Next string, D. Next string, G. Next string, B. And the bottom string, another D. So you probably noticed I'm wearing these things, finger picks. Now these are sort of an essential part of bluegrass style. They give the banjo the sharp, twanging, attacking sound that you need. Now a lot of people have problems with finger picks in the early days. When you first put them on, they feel a bit strange to wear. They really do. They feel like an alien part of your body. What I would recommend is trying lots of different sorts of finger picks until you find ones that are comfy for you. You need a thumb pick, which goes on your thumb, and it faces like this, so sort of away from the palm of your hand. And two finger picks. And the finger picks, they're not straight nail extensions. They don't go over the nail. They go over the round bit of your finger, so. So you put a finger pick on your first finger and a finger pick on your second finger. And you want to have them so that they are maybe about ½ centimetre or a little bit less above the top of your finger there. And they want to be twisted round a little bit towards your thumb, not straight, not flat over the end of your finger, not like this, but round a bit towards your thumb at about 30 degrees round from your fingers. If you look at mine, you can see they're not straight over the end of my fingers, they're twisted round a little bit. That's so when you put them on the banjo, they're actually, they run parallel to the strings. Now, what I would suggest you do is you try lots of different sorts of finger picks until you find the ones that you really like. When you put them on, you have to squeeze them so they grip your fingers well. There are different styles. You can get them made by Dunlop, you can get them made by Pro Pick. The thumb picks I like are these Pro Pick metal ones. Mine's are large, even though I don't have particularly large hands. And the finger picks I like are these Dunlop ones. And I'm using 0.225 finger picks. You might want to start with 0.15 to start with, slightly lighter ones. They're easier. Try the Dunlops. I'd recommend trying these Pro Picks, but there are lots of other styles. You can get them plastic ones or metal and plastic ones. Doesn't really matter as long as they're comfortable. When you get 3 that you feel really comfortable with because you've squashed them down and you're used to playing with them, then look after them. Keep them in a little box or something so they don't get squashed, and try not to lose them, because once you've got a set that fit really well, then you want to keep them. And don't lend them to another banjo player, because if another banjo player puts them on, they'll immediately squash them to the shape of their fingers and you'll never get them back again. Don't stand on them either. Okay, and then so hold in the banjo. You sit the banjo in your lap between your knees. You want it, the head of the banjo, the neck of the banjo, to come up at about 45 degrees, and the whole banjo to come out from your body at about 30 degrees. So it's not flat back like that. It's pointing out from your body a little bit, so up at 45 and out at about 30 degrees. Then your right arm comes over with just a little bit of a bend at the wrist here, yeah. Resting your arm on the armrest on the edge of the banjo here, and your right hand goes about about an inch and a half from the bridge. This is the bridge, that's a wooden thing that the string's resting on, onto the head of the banjo. Now, the shape of your hand wants to be almost as if you're holding a small apple or an orange, and you need to bridge your hand, or to support your hand on the head of the banjo, on the skin of the banjo, the head it's called, with either your little finger or your ring finger, or both, so that the banjo stays in the same place. And you have those fingers straight, and then you cup in your other 3 fingers so they're floating above the string. So it's sort of this shape, almost like you're holding a big broom handle. Yeah, you've got a gap there, and then I've got these 2 fingers planted on the string. So you can either have just a little finger, or just your ring finger, or both. That doesn't really matter which of those. The experts all say just do the one that suits you. And then the other 3 fingers, the ones you've got to pick the strings with, the thumb sits above the drone string, your index finger sits above the second string from the bottom, and your ring finger, your middle finger above the bottom string. So you haven't got to move them much. So when you're going to start picking the strings, your fingers can just do very small circular motions to get those strings. If you think banjo music, it's often very quick, and so you want economy of movement. Your hand needs to be fairly, not tense, but sort of assertively placed on here. You don't want a really floppy hand. If you think about it, bluegrass is all about attack. To get that attack, you need to have a good firm hand. So plant your fingers fairly firmly on the head of the banjo, about an inch and a half away from the bridge. And float your fingers above the strings. So when you play, you're not doing this with your fingers in between times. They're staying nice and close to the strings you want to play. Okay, so now you're set up. You've bought your banjo, you've got a strap, you've got a capo, you've got your finger picks. You sort of know how to hold the banjo on your lap. The next thing we will do is learn to play some basic roll patterns. So in my next video, we're going to look at learning those roll patterns, which is all work with this right hand. Thank you.